You wrestle when you don't know what to do with your now or your current state, and you wrestle when you don't know what to do with your next. It's a struggle in your purpose. It's a struggle in your identity. In times of transition, when you don't really have surety or clarity of what to do with your next, it's a transition, it's change, and you'll feel that tension on the inside of you. Yo, welcome to Peculiar You, the podcast. I am your host, Rachel Ruby, and I count it a privilege and an honor that you're here with me for another conversation. Before we hop into the conversation, do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, turn your notifications on so that you know when new conversations and new episodes are dropping every Sunday night. My pastor has recently started this series entitled The Battle Within. And it talks about how there is oftentimes an internal wrestle between the new nature or your new creation in Christ Jesus versus this old man, right? The spirit man that wants to do right in your flesh that just pulls you, tries to entice you back into who you used to be. And I got to thinking about the various reasons for which we wrestle on the inside of us. And one of the biggest wrestles that I had, I remember, is you wrestle when you don't know what to do with your now or your current state, and you wrestle when you don't know what to do with your next. When you don't know what to do with now and you don't know what to do with next, right? It's a struggle in your purpose. It's a struggle in your identity. Like, who am I now? And like I said, this was one of my biggest wrestles because I can remember, I had to be in my early to mid 20s. It's like, I knew who I used to be, right? So I felt like I was in between this process of who I used to be and who God had called me to be. But I really didn't know how it connected. I didn't really know what to do in the process. And that's where the wrestle comes in times of transition, when you don't really have surety or clarity of what to do with your next. It's a transition, it's change, and you'll feel that tension on the inside of you. And so I remember this particular night, this Wednesday night, man, I can visualize it like it was yesterday. This Wednesday night, I picked up the phone and I called one of our elders, Tanya Smith, God rest her soul. I remember picking up the phone one Wednesday night, and man, I was just in a place of just struggling, and I really didn't know who to turn to. I called her, man, and I was on that phone for probably 30 minutes just boo-hooing, like having no sense of direction in life, just an emptiness, a void on the inside of me because, I just had no clue what to do. And I was boo-hooing, and that ain't surprising for some of y'all, but I just ain't the boo-hoo, get on the phone and boo-hoo type. That's a rare occurrence for me. But I was such in a broken state. I was in a battle. I was literally in a battle on the inside of me. And I remember her just encouraging me and reassuring me that, God had great things in store for me. And I know when I look back on it, I know that conversation was really the turning point for me, because life began to unfold itself. From that conversation, I can pinpoint that conversation. Life began to unfold itself step by step by step. And so the Bible says this, that God told Jeremiah in the book of Jeremiah, he said, before I formed you, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you, or I set you apart. I called you to be peculiar. I ordained you a prophet to the nations. So it is, you and I, that before we were formed, our Father, he knew us, and he separated us. He called us to be peculiar, and then he gave us a purpose. He ordained you to be fill in the blank. And the thing is, you got to figure out what your blank is so that you can live life on purpose. When you live according to purpose, it is the most fulfilling thing that you can have in life. It's not the amount of money you have. It's not the cars, the materialistic things, the clothes, the vacations, all of that. Nothing can satisfy you like fulfilling the call of God on your life, fulfilling the original intent for your life, because without it, life is really mundane. Life has very little meaning when you don't know your why for living. You just get up, You go to work just so you can pay the bills, and you repeat the process day in and day out. And really, when you live like that, you can fall into a state of sadness or depression. But living in purpose gives life meaning. Living in purpose gives life purpose. I know you're not supposed to define a word with a word, but it is what it is. And so you know by now that season 3 is about all things growth. I have been challenged by God, and I'm challenging you to grow up and to mature in all things. So let's talk about this. Can I help you about how to grow in your purpose? Number 1 is this: be obedient in the small things, in the small promptings from the Lord. Because here's what I found out about life is that obedience to God, it's not, sometimes we look for the grand things. Sometimes we look for the home run things, but really obedience is like a puzzle, right? And it's like, A unlocks B, and B unlocks C, and C unlocks D. But sometimes we want to start at A and we want to hop all the way to Z. But no, you got to go through the process. You got to go through the process. You got to have progress in your process to unlock the purpose that God has for you. And sometimes, like I said, we look for the grand things, but if we learn to be obedient in the small things of God, then you will be surprised how your life will be unlocked, how favor will rest upon you, that you would have favor with God and with man, and that destiny would just unfold right in front of your eyes. You'll be surprised with how God favors you in your career, how God connects you with divine assignments, divine people. You got to learn to be obedient in the small steps. Number 2, I would say, is learn to serve someone else's vision. When you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you should put your hands to the plow to help someone else's vision. Maybe that's someone else's business. Use your talents and gifts to, help someone else's ministry, talents and gifts at church. You need, like my pastor says, he says this, and it always stuck with me. You need a landing spot to become. If you don't even know who you are, you need somewhere that you can become, and you will see life begin to unfold when you are committed to serving someone else's vision. You'll be surprised how God opens your vision when you serve someone else's vision. Number 3 is this: look for mentors for your life. Look for mentors for your life, even when they don't come in the package that you think that they should. Don't be confined to mentors that are of your same race, age, demographic. They live in the same area as you. They make the same. No, look for mentors. Don't be surprised when God introduces mentors to your life that may look nothing like you. I remember so vividly that God's favor had to be on my life. I remember working for a company, a communications company, in my 20s. And I was brand new to the job. And this woman, she was a boss. I mean, she was a boss. She looked nothing like me, a Caucasian woman. I don't know. She probably had to be in her 60s. She had to be in her 60s, but she was a boss. She was the CEO or the COO of a multi-million-dollar family corporation. And I started working for this company, and this woman that looks nothing like me, out of the ordinary, she took me in and she showed me the ropes about, she showed me everything I needed to know, the behind the scenes of working and building and running a multi-million-dollar company, a corporation. And I remember in that time that I learned so much. I knew nothing about business, but she came out and she would be teaching me about spreadsheets and how to pay people and percentages and doing payroll and money stuff and going to the bank and handling business for her and all kind of stuff. And what I didn't know is she was teaching me something then that I use in my life now. And so being connected to her and her leadership and her just care for little old me, didn't know me from nothing. Little black girl that don't know nothing about nothing. She was so patient, and she would literally give me the steps. Here's the tools, here the key. And I use some of that stuff to this day. And so my encouragement to you is to look for people that can show you the way, even when they look nothing like you. And then 4 is probably the most important thing when you're trying to grow in purpose. Is I think that you need to spend a lot of time with the Lord. You need to spend a lot of time in the presence of the Lord, because in his presence, you will find direction. You will learn to hear the voice of the Lord. He'll begin to speak to you in a variety of different forms, whether it's through other people, whether it's in prayer, whether it's through dreams. God will begin to speak to you. One of my favorite verses is Proverbs, the 3rd chapter. It talks about trusting in the Lord with all of your heart and leaning not to your own understanding in all of your ways and all that you do. In all that you do, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to you in all your ways. Acknowledge him. That's what it is. Acknowledge him. So if you acknowledge God, he will be the conductor and the director of your path that leads to purpose. So here it is. Now you're in purpose. And you have some momentum, right? You have some zeal. You have some sense of direction. I'll give you 2 things, and maybe I'll circle the block some other time and talk about purpose and leadership a little bit further. But when you have purpose and you have momentum, you should always remain humble. Humility is the key to elevation. That's the Bible. It says he humbles the exalted and he exalts the humble. Humility is key. Stay humble. Stay humble. Stay humble. Stay humble. Sit down. Number 2 is to live your life in integrity. Be who you say you're going to be. Do what you say you're going to do. Be a person of your word. You need integrity for purpose. When I was in high school, this was my quote. This was my quote in the yearbook. It's I think Nas said it in one of his songs or one of Jeezy's songs or something. He said, no matter how big you could ever be, for whatever fee or publicity, never ever lose your integrity. That's what I want to encourage you to. Don't ever lose your integrity with where God takes you in life, with however you blow up and however successful that you become. Never ever lose your integrity. Remain humble, and God will guide your path. I know that he will. So rest in this, that even when you feel the wrestle of life and you don't know what to do with your now, seek the heart of the Lord. And I know that purpose will unveil itself step by step by step by step. Listen, if this conversation has been a blessing to your life, do me a favor, copy the link, send it to somebody, share it on social media, and say, hey, tap in. Peculiar You, the podcast, just dropped a new episode, and I think that you should tune in. In the meantime, in between time, you know that I love you, and always remember to keep it peculiar. Peace.